Me and Teresa, that is, drove 900 miles yesterday, 14 and a half hours from Adrian, Oregon, back to San Diego so we could have a nice, relaxing day off before I have to go back to work and she has to return to her summer break. And with that, we bring you episode number 93 of Coast to Coast Pinball. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast, a commentary. I am a man out of quarters. What's going on, everyone? So summer break is over for Coast to Coast Pinball. We're back to the grind, the podcasting grind. It's not really a grind, it's fun, right? And it actually pained me not to do shows this past week because there was stuff happening, things were going on, but I was on break. I drove to my family's house in far eastern Oregon on the Idaho border, and I assumed there'd be no pinball, and I was wrong. There was pinball. Who knew? So my mom lives on the border of Oregon and Idaho, and Teresa and I drove up there. We camped on night one in California, up in the mountains, and it was very cold. That was not good times. I'm not really an outdoor pet, as Teresa likes to say. I'm not much of a camper. But that's all right. We did it, and then we drove up to my mom's, and on the way, I saw a pinball. We were at a truck stop near, I think, Winnemucca, Nevada. Looked that one up on a map. And lo and behold, I was just making a restroom break, and there, in between the restrooms, at this truck stop, was an Elvis pinball machine, which I did not play, because I don't really care for that machine, and I was in a hurry trying to get out of Nevada. So, if you're in the Winnemucca general vicinity, somewhere on I-80 or I-60, see, I don't even know where I was, 60 maybe, 80, whichever freeway goes between Winnemucca and Reno, Nevada, there's an Elvis pinball machine that's lonely. It's waiting for your quarters. Go visit that Stern masterpiece. Stern. Anyway, so while we were at my mother's place, we were hanging out at the farm on the dairy, as it may be, lots of cows. We made a little trek into a town called Ontario, Oregon. In Ontario, Oregon, when I went to high school in Adrian, Oregon, tiny little town. Ontario was the first real town of any size. You know, the first town with like multiple restaurants and shopping and stuff. And a couple years ago, Teresa and I were up there, and we wandered into a bowling alley on the off chance that they might have had a pinball machine. Now, I didn't remember there being pinball there when I went to that bowling alley as a teenager, but back then, a couple years ago, we just wandered in, and there was pinball in the Sunset Lanes in Ontario, Oregon. And this was about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, 2 years ago, before Coast to Coast Pinball existed. We wandered in, and they had two games. They had a Data East The Simpsons, and they had a very good conditioned Tales of the Arabian Nights, a game that I love. And we went back a couple days ago in hopes to go play some Tales of the Arabian Nights, or Totan, as some call it. And it was gone. There was no Totan. There was no Arabian Nights to be had in Ontario, Oregon now. It has been replaced by a much better Stern machine than Elvis, a Lord of the Rings. I have just spent a lot of time playing Lord of the Rings recently, as there's one in a bowling alley here local to me in San Diego, and I didn't really feel the need. Teresa didn't really feel the need. We played a game on The Simpsons just to kind of support the pinball on site. That bowling alley doesn't have the greatest smell, air filtration system. I think they've done some heavy-duty like smell treatment in part of it, you know, the like shampoo or the perfume they put in the carpeting to try and kill some of that bowling alley funk smell was kind of killing both Teresa and I, so we didn't stay long. But we did go find that. So there's your briefest of brief trip reports. If you're in the far eastern Oregon area, Malheur County, and you need to get your pinball fixed, there are two games for you. And the Simpsons game we played was in good shape. I'm not a huge fan of that particular game, the Data East Simpsons game. It's okay. It's all right. It was playing quick though. The flippers were very very robust, and it made me realize how badly I needed to do a rebuild of the flippers on my Tales from the Crypt machine, another Data East title, which today, on my off day, this nice Sunday, July 6th, 2014, I did that. I rebuilt the flippers today, and now that gameplay's awesome. I was having trouble hitting the left ramp shot. The flipper was just dirty and worn out and needed some work. So I'd ordered the parts. I appreciate the folks over at Pinball Life getting those out to me so quickly. And I did have a little rebuild today. I also want to thank all the people who put info up on the internet, because I am a moron and don't know how to do that stuff without looking at videos and how-to guides on the interwebs. So I'm not much of a tech when it comes to pinball machines. I get that request sometimes from listeners saying, hey, you should do more tech talk. And I say, no, you don't want me to do that. That is not it's not what I'm here for. I'm here to just, ramble on about the goings-on in the world of pinball. And as I mentioned, there's stuff going on. So we need to make some commentary, as it may be, on some topics that can be read about in depth on pinside.com in the pinball forums.
Forum static.
Yes, the static that is the forum. And this particular topic had a lot of static. One of the more, I would say, how do I put it? Tough to read threads in recent memory, because I kind of just was shaking my head at all sides of this thread, and the thread that I'm specifically talking about is one of the 3 or 4 going on right now about Vonnie D Pinball. Vonnie D Pinball had done this countdown to their announcement, which is sort of popular in the pinball world, as we announce that we have an announcement coming out. And when we finally got to the day of the announcement, their site went live. They had videos up. They had artwork up. They had Barry Arsler attached to it. And they had their first game announced, which was Pinball Gremlins. And it was going to be an original theme built by a new company based out of St. Louis, Missouri. And that was cool. Like, I was cool with that. I looked it over. I was on vacation. I threw the link up on Facebook. People were liking it. People were looking at it. And somewhere along the ways, things started to go south for the folks at Vonnie D. And Vonnie D Pinball did not have the greatest week on Pinside, as I'm sure many of you listening probably saw happen. The first thread that was started, I believe, was new pinball company startup in Missouri, Vonnie D Pinball. And, it was actually before we knew what was happening. It was like a month ago, and then the countdown started coming, and oh boy, how do I put this? The lynch mob kind of came out against Vonnie D Pinball during the last week, and I think that it came out in such force because of the approach Vonnie D decided to take. We are in the age of the crowd fund and the crowdsource. And I read a brilliant little quote on a comic somewhere on the internet, maybe it was on Reddit, where somebody had a little quote that said, Kickstarter is the new freeloader, or crowdsourcing is the new freeloading, or whatever. And I think the pinball community is sort of at terminal capacity for donations and, betting on the come, so to speak, throwing their money out there before there's product. And Vonnie D, okay, so these guys come from virtually nowhere. We don't really know these guys. These are not names in the industry. They did some things right. I really got to hand it to them. They did some things right. They found someone they could attach themselves to, Barry Arsler. I don't think they handled that all so well. They haven't really said what Barry's going to do. Barry's not designing the game. Vaughn Davis, who is, obviously Vonnie D Pinball, is actually the engineer. A guy named Wes Upchurch is the producer. And then they have a guy named Gabriel Piccolo, who's the artist, and then Barry Arsler. That's their team, so to speak. From what I can tell, though, the design of the game is Vonnie D. And Barry is, at one point I know they said he was going to work on some modes. He'll be working to create unique and innovative game modes. So, cool, we got Barry on board, but to what degree, I don't know. I think it sort of felt to some as just no, hey, we're legit. We have somebody Look, here he is. And it happened to be somebody that we know who hasn't been super involved in the hobby recently. So I think some skepticism maybe popped in right there. The Kickstarter thing. So you throw up a Kickstarter. You're Vonnie D Pinball. Nobody knows who you are. You do a countdown. You're promising, some say pinball's dead. I don't know that anybody recently has been saying pinball's dead. So it's sort of a weird pitch. And then you want $100,000 on your Kickstarter to build the game. And you sort of, as a way with the Kickstarter, say, well, we don't really need this money because we have an venture capitalist that we could use, but then we'd have to leave some things off the game. We'd have to add more modes and more features and, quote, never before seen technologies. So I want to hear more about that for sure. Somebody please tell me about never before seen technologies. And I think the $100,000 ask with Kickstarter hit Pinside in sort of a bad way, and a lot of people jumped on these guys very quickly. Like, what are you doing? Like, why do you need $100,000? All you've got is this whitewood drawing. There was a lot of confusion. I think there was a lot of sort of talk about, we have this prototype that we've been working on, but there's no prototype done yet. We need to purchase stuff to build the prototype. The message was sort of garbled. There's a lot of questions on, how do you know how do you, Mr. D, know how to even design a pinball machine? Some of that came up, obviously. The theme was a really kind of interesting one, too, because they've got this Pinball Gremlins pinball machine theme. And when you say the word gremlins, I don't think that there's many in my age range, that mid-30s up through mid-50s, and probably some younger too, who don't think Gremlins from the 1980s, Gizmo and Spike and, the movies, Gremlins, which would actually probably make a pretty cool boutique pinball theme. So you throw that out there. You throw Pinball Gremlins out there, but then you don't give us the Gremlins we know and love. You give us some other Gremlins. And the logo for Pinball Gremlins is pretty dark and scary, some of it. But then you also have this artwork that's really cool. I'm not by no means taking a dig at the artwork, kind of little concept arts, it's sketches that are on the Kickstarter page of Gearhead and Crosswire and Pilot. They're cool. They're neat. This artist guy is clearly, this Gabriel Piccolo is clearly talented. He's known for this black and white ink project called 365 Days of Doodles. If you haven't seen that, by all means, go look that up. Guy has got some great stuff. But it was sort of a weird message. Gremlins with this new art you don't know, and Pinball Gremlins, and it's not Gremlins. And a lot of people asked the very same question that came to my head is, why don't you just get the Gremlins license? Like, how much could that license be, right? You want $100,000 off of Kickstarter, like, hook us up. Give us the theme. I kind of have an issue with something as complicated and, like I say often about pinball machines, something as hard to build as a pinball machine, about looking to do it crowdfunded like this. And my problem is there's so many things that go into this. And, the idea of, okay, anybody can design a game. I'm an idiot with construction and engineering. I could design a game, but could I build 3 of them? Could I build 10 of them? No, I couldn't do any of that. It's hard. Where your wiring harness is going to come from? Who's going to make your inserts? Who's going to, do your ramps and your wire forms? Where's all that coming from? I don't know, a lot of questions. So when you start going crowdsourcing, and it's, it's not like a band who wants to go record an album and they crowdsource it so that it gets done and all their fans kind of own a piece of it, because that band already knows how to play their instruments and go into a recording studio and do it. I see those all the time. I get it. It's not like things like, the Pebble smartwatch, which was one of the hugest Kickstarters ever, where they had a working prototype and showed you what it was going to do, and you just you figured they could go to Asia and build these things. You got to build this thing in the United States. I got a little concerned, quite honestly, when I got down to the stretch goals portion. Because if you're not real familiar with Kickstarter, you'll ask for you'll set a goal in Kickstarter, and they set $100,000, and then you can choose how much you'd like to back on that. You can back $1, and $1 will just get you a little bit of thanks, appreciate it. $5, you'll get an arcade token, and it goes up from there. And when you get up to like way high, you could actually get the game. I believe it was $6,500. Yeah, so $6,500 got you a standard Pinball Gremlins pinball machine at a special price for supporting us early. And then you get all the other little rewards below that. That's cool. There's a limited edition Pinball Gremlins machine at $7,000. For $7,500, they will characterize you and put you in the playfield or back glass of the game. Interesting. So they're going to put you in there. And then you get all the other stuff. So my problem is $6,500. You're if somebody puts that in there and we get to $100,000, they don't get any of the money unless it hits their goal. Kickstarter's had a lot of companies not ever make anything. And pinball just strikes me as one of the really, really risky ones that could go that route. So I don't know. I get worried. Like I said, though, when I got to the stretch goals, hey, if we get way over $100,000, here's what we'll do with all the extra money. They have a stretch goal at $200,000 of an LCD screen, and they say we'll add a patent-pending full-color LCD screen to the pinball machine's apron as a way to make it easier to see your current modes, bonuses, and score. This screen would allow for advertising and other information, such as pricing, to be displayed when the game is not in use. So they're going to put a little LCD screen down on the apron. Okay, that's fine. That's kind of a big change in $100,000. And what's patent pending? Are they patenting the fact that they can put the LCD screen into the apron? Maybe, I guess that's kind of cool. But got to get another $100,000 to get that. $300,000 gets you online player accounts. The custom boards on our machine have an included Wi-Fi card. We've developed a method for creating an internet-connected pinball machine that could be used for worldwide online tournaments from tracking player stats across a network and possibly even online player versus mode. I gotta tell you, they're not the first ones to think that up. None of that is original. None of it. I've talked to people at other companies that have already worked on that, so I don't know that that's anything that crazy that people currently building machines haven't already thought of, and I can't imagine why that's $100,000. At $500,000, they have another patent pending idea, they say, which is color changing glass, which color changing glass exists, but I don't think anybody's ever tried to use it in pinball. So anyway, I just thought that the price of these stretch goals seemed really high. If $100,000 got you the whole game, then you need to double that just to get this little LCD screen in there. I don't know about that. That seemed a bit odd to me. And this isn't even an LCD screen in the back of the back box. This is down in the apron. So I don't know. I'm still okay. Hey, man, I love it. I love the fact that somebody else is trying to build a machine. I personally don't like the Kickstarter model. I think it was probably bad timing. I think that if these gentlemen had really had their finger on the pulse of pinball right now, they should have probably known that this approach was going to get some backlash. Then there's the video, and the video I think they at Vonnie D Pinball themselves currently know right now was sort of a swing and a miss, because they've actually made fun of it, which I appreciate. Totally appreciate them going on their Facebook account and their YouTube and posting their own kind of like, here's their bloopers. If you didn't think our video was good, it could have been way worse. Their sales pitch video on Kickstarter was pretty bad. And I'm saying that just as my personal feelings on it, my commentary. It's rough. It's Vonnie D and Wes sitting in an arcade, reading notes from off screen, not looking at the camera. It's pretty rough, and people jumped all over that. So they also had these videos that were clearly purchased off of the website Fiverr, where puppets will basically, you can do a commercial with puppets. And if you don't know what Fiverr is a website where you sell your service for $5, and things can cost more than that, but the basic is always $5. And Vonnie D employed this Fiverr artist to make puppet videos pitching pinball gremlins. And they're not great. they are what they are. It's a puppet on a green screen with a thing in the background talking about the game. And once it sort of was called out in the Pinside threads that this was from Fiverr, people also jumped on that, saying, "Hey, you want $100,000? You have all this money. You're doing all this, but you spent $5 on a video." Which I know it was $5 more for the custom background, $5 more for the extra words, whatever. You get what I'm saying. So they caught some flack for that too. Now, yeah, I don't think it was a great pitch. I think that they're probably excited. In fact, I'm sure they're excited about their game. These guys have a dream. They're clearly young guys. They're motivated. They are trying to do their part in this industry. I think maybe they have overestimated on the Kickstarter thing what the pinball community is willing to do. I think that 2 or 3 years ago this might have worked better. Looking back at, like, say, Skit B's success with the Predator game, but that was a license. That was something people had a little more familiarity with. It's the great conundrum of modern pinball design. Everyone I want something other than a superhero or an action movie or a rock band. I want an original theme. Well, so somebody gives you an original theme, and then everyone just is like, I don't know who these dudes are. And that's the problem. I think when people say they want an original theme, they want an original theme from established people who are going to make a great game. And we know that. This will be a long road for Vonnie D. You look at some of the other boutique companies, the approach was either drastically different or sort of the origins were very different. And Pinside lashed out at them. And I will say, I disagreed with some of the lashing out in some of the threads. I thought it was just a little too smarmy and snarky and just elitist, and I thought it was too much myself. I that's when I tap out on threads, is when it gets too much into attack mode. I have no problems with somebody calling out inaccuracies in stated missions, goals, ideas, etc. I have no problem with that. I thought that Vonnie D deserved some of that for sure. I don't think we needed all the stuff about how, shut your thing down. It's like, okay, angry typing guy, you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. I have your opinion, that's fine, but you don't need to go for the throat so much, I don't think. And I thought there was a little too much of that. And there's some other people that definitely chimed in and felt the same way and thought that it was overboard. But you know what? When you're asking for $100,000 and you're asking for $6,500 for a pinball machine and you've never built a pinball machine before, we've never even seen flippers flipping on a piece of wood out of your shop, you are sort of asking for this. And we're all grown-ups, we're big boys here. I've gotten some horrible feedback before on this show. And you gotta expect it. You're putting yourself out there. Some of that's gonna be there. I wish Pinside wasn't quite so rough and so vicious. But it happened, and it's out there for you all to read. So I guess the forward of all this now is been sort of interesting to read. And this has been more recent on Pinside. Now, actually, I want to find it so that I get it all correct, because Vonnie D has posted an update. And if for nothing else, maybe to get people to stop reading those other threads with all the rough kind of talk on the company and the project. So Wes of the Vonnie D Pinball Company posted a couple days ago, Vonnie D Pinball pre-order on Kickstarter. So he says, we've heard your concerns regarding there not being a way to pre-order a game on Kickstarter without having to shell out the entire price of the game. Those concerns are over thanks to a significant backing. Okay, so I don't see the significant backing on the Kickstarter page yet, but I'm assuming they're talking about a significant backing just to the company from somewhere. We are now able to take the game to production without requiring the full payment up front. Instead, a $100 pledge will hold your place in line for the Pinball Gremlins pinball machine. No further payment will be necessary until the game is ready to ship. Our Kickstarter backers will receive priority shipping for the game. When your game is ready to ship, if you decide you aren't interested in the machine at that time, we'll refund the deposit. You'll see we've added the pre-order reward level on our Kickstarter page. So when you go on the Kickstarter page, now you see at the $100 level, you're on the list. We are only making a limited number of machines, and by reserving your spot here, you're pre-ordering the Pinball Gremlins machine. This reward level holds your place in line for the Pinball Gremlins standard machine. There is no need to pay the full retail price until the machine is ready to ship. This reward level is not included in any other reward level and does not include previous rewards. Estimated delivery, December of 2015. So that's for $100. Right now, 2 days later, 2 people have backed that. They have 998 spots out of 1,000 left, so they're committed to 1,000 machines, apparently. When you scroll down and look at the LE versions, looks like they have 10 LEs they're committed to. Although there's also 486 limited edition for $8,000, so, and then there's 10 spots down here and 4 spots down here, so it looks like there's 500 limited editions. So we have now, and boy, I hope this isn't coming off like I'm trying to like tear these guys apart. I'm just trying to be a realist, trying to be real here. Because pinball machines are hard to make, right? Yes, hard to make. We've established that. We have this company potentially committing to 1,500 pinball machines. We have Spooky Pinball with an original design, America's Most Haunted, with actual games that have been taken out in the world. They have one on location. They've shipped games with Ben Heck, who's sort of a superstar in the techie, mad scientist-y, geeky world, designing and making it. Spooky Pinball, who have their roots in the pinball industry, who've made cabinets for Jersey Jack. They're making other stuff for other people. I don't know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not. And they've sold less than 100 America's Most Haunted. And Vonnie D is saying they're going to build up to 1,500 and acting as if that's limited. I think there's a little bit of a reality check needed here. Yeah, I think it's really great to think, hey, if I sold 1,000 games at $6,000, that's a lot of money. Medieval Madness sold 1,000 games really fast. If we could sell 1,000 games in just a slower amount of time, we'd have all this money. We could build games. Yada, 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 yada. I don't know. I took a big pause there because I am trying to be as open-minded as I can be with this. And I openly encourage, and I will reach out to in the next couple days to the folks at Vonnie D to talk with them on the show, because I would never get up here on my soapbox and spout off without giving someone a chance to come and pitch it to me. But the idea of getting people to commit even $100 to a game that could be released a year and a half from now from a company that has never built a game that we've ever seen, I think they're just doing this out of order. I really think this is so out of order. And it's the Kickstarter thing. The Kickstarter thing has taken over to a lot of startups, and it's worked for a lot of people. It gets an influx of money. I don't think this is the right way to go about this situation. 18 days to go on their Kickstarter page. They are at $8,078 of their $100,000 goal. 35 people have backed. 6 of those backers have backed in the $1 or more. 6 have backed in the $5 or more. 7 have backed $10 or more. 3 have backed $25. They have 2 $50 backers, 3 $50 backers, 2 $80 backers, 2 $100 backers, 2 $150, and they have, I do believe, 1 backer of $7,000. So of that $8,078, 1 person backed $7,000 of it. Gonna be tough. I'm not sure what else they can do. I think that this new update that Vonnie posted goes a long way to show that they're not dumb. They actually they get it. They get that there's clearly been pushback. Wes goes on to say later in the thread that feedback from the community is important to us. Coming from me, just some dude with a podcast. I just one guy, but it's my show, so I get to have my opinion. I would let the Kickstarter run its course. I'd get really quiet. I would build the most awesome machine I could, and I would find somebody to build it for me. I would bring it to Expo, and I would wow us with a great playing game with some truly innovative, never-before-seen technologies, as they claim they have. And I would go that route. And I would hope that these guys have day jobs. I believe they do. I believe they operate pinball machines. I think that's part of what these guys do. Because it's going to be a while, I think, before you see any real money coming in. This is not a Jersey Jack situation where you're going to sell a bunch of games. This is different. And part of this is because of the Jersey Jack situation that it's different. It's because of, Skit B taking a while. It's because of John Papaduke taking a while. There's money been held up. The people adventures with their money have been held up and have waited. And I think the Spooky situation is really the one that should have keyed somebody off here, that your best bet is going to be to get a game built. And you may need to structure your company around the idea of selling 100 games and of each title, or 100 games of this. And that's a real number that I think an unknown company could sell if they have a great game. Maybe it's 250, maybe it's 300. 1,500 games? I don't see it. I just don't. I'm going to watch closely. I'm so interested to see how this goes down. There are pieces of some great ideas in here. They really are. And there's clearly some initiative being shown. There's some energy being shown. I think there should be less Vonnie D. Like a lot less Vonnie D. Because Vonnie D, the logo, the name, it doesn't mean anything. And I don't mean that in a mean way. Just like, Nate Shivers in the pinball world doesn't really mean anything. I'm just some dude. I'm trying to build a brand, Coast2Coast Pinball, as an entertainment for people to enjoy listening to, talking about our favorite thing, which is pinball. Vonnie D Pinball, less Vonnie D, more pinball, I guess is the way I would sum that up. And please, not meant as a slight, just meant as a neutral observer who would be very happy to play your game at Expo, fully flipping, and hopefully I get to meet you guys, because I will be at Expo, and I think this is going to be a really fun Expo, because there's going to be some cool games there to check out and play. So that's kind of, I had some emails on this, and why haven't I commented on this? I guess people didn't know I was on my little break. That's my thoughts on the Vonnie D situation. Yeah, Pinside was a little harsh. I kind of expected it. I think Vonnie and Wes should have probably expected it. I think they went about this in a way that brought on some of this too. So I wish them the best of luck. I really, really do. And I don't think this Kickstarter is going to fail and Vaughn Davis is going to go away. I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe that this Kickstarter is going to fail and they're going to go for plan B. And they seem to keep telling us they have other money, that there's money coming from other ways. And that's really what you need to do. You need to find investors who are going to be with you for the long term, because this is not a short-term proposition to try and get yourself going in pinball. It's just not. So, best of luck to Vonnie D Pinball. So California Extreme is coming up this weekend, and I don't believe at this time that I'm coming. I was really basing my trip on whether or not I was going to have my brand new America's Most Haunted game. I am waiting patiently in line for my game. I know that I'm not at the very top of the line. I'm somewhere in line. And I was really, really hoping that I would take delivery of America's Most Haunted by this point, and that I could mosey myself up to Santa Clara, California for July 12th and 13th and California Extreme this coming weekend. Teresa and I kicked around the idea of going anyway without the game and just to go. I've been going to a lot of pinball things lately. We just took a huge road trip. I have a lot of work. So it doesn't look like we're going to go. We may make a last-second call. I've had a lot of emails from listeners who were like, hey, I can't wait to meet you at California Extreme. And every time I read that, I kind of cringed because I'm like, I don't think I'm going. So it takes place from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Saturday and 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday. and it's at the Hyatt Regency in Santa Clara, California. There is now, I'm trying to find the rundown on speakers. Get this, give a little California Extreme plug. So Eugene Jarvis will be back at California Extreme. Big name in arcade games, obviously. Larry Rosenthal, I believe, also arcade. Sorry, I'm not super familiar. Skit B Pinball will be there, and Skit B is going to announce the theme of their second game. Kevin actually told me this months back at the Midwest Gaming Classic that was his target. I was really hoping I'd be up there to see this. I hope Skit B would be so kind as to come onto the show and talk about that once that's announced. I think this is good for Skit B because, Predator sold. They don't really have anything left to do with Predator. And I had some people sort of email me and ask me what I thought about Skit B announcing a second game before the first game's all shipped. And to me, if I have a pinball machine company and I have 250 games sold and we're working to build those games, hell yeah, I'm going to try and announce something else to get it going because I've already sold what I had. And you need to keep, selling stuff. So, do I think it'll be an easy thing for Skit B to sell their next game? Not necessarily, because, like I said, we need to ship the first game. But I do think the fact that they've taken Predator around and it does play and work and do the things they've done, and Kevin has, I think, proved himself to a degree in the community as sort of a great mind in pinball. I mean, talk to the guy about pinball for a little bit and you'll realize he's a really smart dude, he's a really good player, and I think that people who are serious about buying something unique and cool will do so from a guy like Kevin. So I think they got that going for them right there. So looking forward to what that theme is. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know. And then there'll be some other. It looks like it's pretty heavy on the arcade speakers. The Pacific Pinball Museum will be making their case for a pinball museum at the Alameda Carnegie Library. That's kind of an ongoing story up in Northern California, which would be very, very cool. I know that I believe Larry and Michael are the names of the guys who are working on that project. It's a pretty cool deal where they're going to take this old public library and turn it into this awesome museum of pinball, and we really hope that happens. So I think that's pretty exciting especially if you're local in the Northern California area. There will also, of course, be a PAPA sanctioned, sponsored tournament at California Extreme. I believe that last year they gave like $6,000 away in prizes. It's your typical like best game format, like you see oftentimes. 16 players make the finals. They're doing a casual section where they take the top 6 casual qualifying scores, and then they pick 2 players at randoms, like wildcard drawings, and they're even doing a kids division. So that's very cool. So if tournaments are your thing, that is also there. What's California Extreme cost to get into? Well, it's $60 for the weekend, $40 for Saturday, $30 for Sunday. They have a lot of games. This should be a really robust spread of games. If you go and look at last year's pinball list, it's pretty deep. It's really cool. So if you're in the Northern California area, if you're in Southern California, if you're in Nevada and you're going to make that trip, go check out CaliforniaExtreme.org, as that is coming up this weekend.
Check the email.
I need to return some emails. Sorry, guys. It's been pretty brutal. I know. I did want to hit a couple here before we wrap episode 93 up. Keith emailed me, and I'm really sorry because I looked back at this, and Keith also emailed me on January 28th, and I don't know that I replied to that. So sorry, buddy. So he's going to sell his Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I don't even know if he wants me to talk about this exactly, but he has a really nice one, clean, has some upgrades, shaker motors, and he's going to sell it because he's going to, I think, get a Medieval Madness remake. Is that the gist of this? But anyway. He kind of saying, what I want to say to you is, hey guys, Nate here, Coast to Coast Pinball. If you're looking for a Star Trek: The Next Generation and you live somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic region and you want to know where a really nice one is, I might know a guy for a really good price, and that's all I'm going to say. So there you go, Keith. I just gave you a commercial. I'll see if I can find you somebody interested. He gave me some ideas or thoughts I might want to consider as you plan for future podcasts. All right, let's take a look. Best 5 pinball mods of all time. I'm going to leave that one to the Pinball Podcast. That sounds like a best 5 list for them. I don't know. My favorite mod of recent memory would be the DK Pinball Crypt Keeper, moving Crypt Keeper back and forth on their Tales of the Crypt at Midwest Gaming Classic. I want one. I know those guys have emailed me since I got my Tales from the Crypt saying, hey, we could be even better. I know, I could get a pig, I could do that. I need a Crypt Keeper toy. I know, I want to. I would love to do that. That would be my favorite mod recently. Stern Lord of the Rings versus AC/DC and Metallica for replay value and long-lasting appeal. Interesting. Well, if you like lots of modes and like things to accomplish and try and get through it, Lord of the Rings would be better than either of the other two. Although, I think the replay value on Metallica is pretty good where they're at code-wise now. AC/DC, I have a love-hate relationship with AC/DC because I love AC/DC as a theme. I love the music. I love the flow of that game. I love the speed of it. I don't love the pro game. It's just, man, they cheaped out just a little too much on the pro game. And the LE and the premium version of that game with the clear playfield, I've seen some of those in pretty awful shape already. So I have this like love-hate with that game. I like the drop targets better on the premium and the LE. So if you're talking about the premium AC/DC, there's a lot going on there. And it's a hard game. The game's brutal. I drained down the middle on that game so much. And is it the left out lane on that one? Man. So there's a lot of replay value in AC/DC because it's so freaking hard. Metallica, there's a lot to go for now, and a lot to like build upon and like try and stack. So I think Metallica's got some of that going too. I think those are 3 great Stern games. So I don't know. To me, it's like own one, get sick of it over a year, sell it, get the next one. I don't know. Should everybody have at least one EM in their collection? FYI, I hate EMs, but to be fair, I've played a couple. Well, Keith, let me tell you about that. I thought everyone should have an EM. And I love EMs to a degree. I own an EM. I have Skylab out in the living room, and I never play it. I never freaking play it. Now, some who know Skylab really well would say, well, yeah, Nate, because it's kind of a boring game. Yes, it's kind of a boring game. I love EMs in tournaments. That Classics tournament in Atlanta at the Southern Fried Game Room Expo was so fun. I had so much fun playing that Classics tournament because EMs are sort of an equalizer. You can take, like, I was scoring better than some great pinball players in some of these EM games because there's just a little bit more, happenstance and chance and whatever you want to call it in those EM games. I don't know. I really like them in that situation. I like EMs with lots of drop targets. That's always fun to me. I love hitting drop targets down. I know that sounds sort of basic and simple, but I do. Should everyone own an EM? No, not necessarily. If you're not going to play it, don't own it, because somebody will play it, and so sell it to somebody who will play it. I'm probably going to sell my Skylab. I like the art on a lot of those games. I have a real soft spot in my heart for that simple art and some of those cool drawings, Centigrade 37, Skylab, and these things. I love that. I think if you're really trying to have a piece of like older pinball history, like an early 80s Bally game, like Medusa or something like that, that would be cool. I don't know. That's my opinion. Keith, you gave me all these great ideas. I could probably run like episodes and episodes off of these ideas, but I'm going to burn through them all right here because I'm like that. Pros and cons or key design features of the top 5 pinball designers. Okay, now that one I can't do quickly, sorry. Because I'd have to, so hold on. All we're going to do here, I'm going to make some notes on the next page of my little book here. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a notebook where I put notes for every episode. If you ever see me at a pinball show, ask to see the book. It's pretty insane. I'm going to write top 5 pinball designers here. So I assume we're talking about Steve Ritchie, and we're talking about John Papaduke. We're talking about who are we talking about here? Top 5? Are we talking about Mark Ritchie? Is Mark Ritchie in that? I don't know. I don't think Mark Ritchie's in that. Is George Gomez in that? I don't know. Interesting. I don't think George Gomez is in that. Maybe. Is John Trudeau in that? I would assume John Trudeau's in that, right? Is Barry Orsler in that? Barry Orsler's got to be. Orsler, sorry. I can't ever say your name. That's more than 5 already. Hold on. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting some big names here. Python Angela's more like art. Who am I forgetting? Hey, Keith, email me back and tell me who the top 5 pinball designers are. I don't even know. I'm missing somebody really obvious here, but I'm doing this on the fly, people. This is not live to tape. And then his last bullet point for me to help me do better podcasts was, what do pinball collectors have in common? That's a good question. Going to shows, I would tell you that if I were to stereotype pinball collectors, they'd be white dudes in t-shirts and jeans or shorts and either single or very understanding women in their lives who are, rather friendly. I think they seem to be kind of smart people. Everyone I meet seems to be pretty smart in this hobby. I don't know what that means. I don't know why there's so many white dudes. Like, what's up? Where's all the other nationalities and races? Come on, man. I don't know. What do we have in common? It's interesting because there's this age bracket you see at these shows, at least for the people who actually go to a pinball show, which is seems to be 30 to 50, 30 to 55 maybe. I don't know. Great question. You tell me. I'm not sure. What do we have in common? And then lastly, Keith wins me over as he says, Twilight Zone is by far my favorite pin. My machine currently needs some work, and I'm not an electronics guy, so anything other than adding mods or doing cabinet work is extremely intimidating. I'm right there with you, Keith, but I will tell you, it's all out there for you to find and discover. There's not much on a pinball machine that isn't documented somewhere on the internet. Somebody's already had your problem. That's one of the cool things about this hobby is, I've had issues with certain games before and had no idea what was going on. But guess what? 10 other people already had that issue, and they've already logged into Pinside or other news forums. Boy, I hate to even... Oh, man. I would tell you that some of the best stuff I have found is still, to this day, in the RPG forums, in the rec.games.pinball forums. And I hate the layout of how that all works now with the Google forms and all that. I'm, not my favorite layout of stuff. It just doesn't look modern anymore, but some of it's still there. If you can get around the quirkiness of that all, what a wealth of information, and there's some really smart people who still post on there. So if you're really running into electronic problems and Lloyd can't help you on Pinside, go to RPG, check it out. I go there all the time and just read it. I wish I could do more on their forums, but there's not much of, news per se that would relate to the show. So, yeah. Anyway, that's episode 93. I gotta go to bed. Gotta go back to work after 9 days off. But episode 94 is coming. I have a "And the Year Was" episode all sort of noted out. I just gotta do it. So maybe this week we'll get that done. I have a couple interviews pending. Lots of stuff going on. I'm really looking forward to Expo in a few months. California Extreme, I don't know. Maybe I'll get brave and Teresa and I'll just make the drive. But our little dog kind of makes that tough at times. So I'm also very excited as we're going to have a show in Southern California coming up. We'll talk about that more in a future episode. And if you're going to California Extreme, I would love some feedback from the show. So please write me, let me know how things are. And we'll have the Skip B announcement this weekend. So I appreciate you listening. I'm going to have some new t-shirts coming out soon. I've had a lot of requests for that. I do have some t-shirts. I'll get an inventory going and let you know it's still available in case you're looking for a shirt. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can check out our website, which is basically just a catch-all for the episodes and the episode art and whatnot, and a place to see the shirt pictures when they're available. Coast2CoastPinball.com. You can email me directly, and I will eventually someday get back to you. That is coastpinball@gmail.com. I appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you again soon.